Chicago, full of stunning architecture, great food, and a few optical illusions we didn't see coming. Join us as we explore the Windy City, one boat ride, one bite, and one mind-bending moment at a time. First stop, Goddess and the Baker. This cozy cafe has become a Chicago favorite, known for its bold coffee, colorful sweets, and fun vibe. It opened in 2015, but it feels like it's been part of the city's rhythm forever. I mean, look at that selection. Phoenix decided to have the berry tart, and I may have tasted it as well. It was fresh and light and disappeared with a quickness. The lunch menu looked incredible as well, with fresh salads and sandwiches, and the staff was friendly and service was fast. Whether you're after caffeine, a super sweet treat, or just a pretty place to pause, this spot delivers. From there, we trucked it on over to Millennium Park, one of Chicago's most loved public spaces, and a trip to Chicago isn't complete without a visit. The flowers were in full bloom everywhere you looked. It's the perfect place to slow down and soak up Chicago. And let's talk about the reason that most people visit Millennium Park. It's the Bean. Although that's not its real name. Officially, it's called Cloud Gate, and it was designed by a British artist, Anish Kapoor, and it was unveiled in 2004 and quickly became a Chicago icon. The mirrored surface reflects everything around it, and I mean everything, including all the people. And there were a lot of people. It was definitely worth a visit, but it wasn't a place Phoenix and I wanted to linger at too long. Honestly, what surprised us was how much we really just loved the park and how nicely it was maintained. We only had one full day in Chicago and we wanted to make the most of it. We decided a Chicago architecture boat tour should definitely be on our to-do list. We walked to our pier and loaded up. We chose the Chicago River Architectural Cruise Company. Whoo! Say that fast, for a few reasons. The boats are smaller than the others. The reviews are great. What an amazing way to see Chicago and learn about its history. We spent about 90 minutes gliding under bridges and past iconic buildings, all narrated by a historian and native of Chicago. We learned how Chicago rose again after the Great Fire of 1871 and how it set the stage to build smarter and taller, giving birth to the first steel-framed skyscraper in 1885. We cruised past this incredible building, which is known as the St. Regis Chicago. It's the third tallest building in Chicago and was designed by Jian Gang. Go girl power. It was completed in 2020, and this triple tower is 1,198 feet tall. One of my favorite parts of the tour were the bridge houses. They aren't just charming, they also represent the periods they were built in, and they were housed by bridge tenders, who controlled Chicago's vital shipping traffic. And the color of the water, that's natural. This branch of the river is fed from Lake Michigan and has that turquoise tint year-round. Well, except for St. Patty's Day, when they dye the river a bright green. And just to allay your fears, the dye they use for St. Patrick's Day is a vegetable-based, environmentally safe dye that turns the river bright green and only for a few hours. The weather in Chicago is normally hot and humid in the summer, but the sunshine is also a staple. So why is Chicago called the Windy City? Well, it's more about politics than weather. Yes, it can be windy in the fall and winter, but the origin of the nickname stems from something a little different. More on that in a minute. And just a fun little fact, there are 38 movable bridges that span the Chicago River and its two main branches within the city limits. This classic building is the London Guarantee Building. It was built in 1923. It's one of the 4 original buildings anchoring Michigan Avenue, and the curved facade follows the bend of the Chicago River. Today, it houses the London House Hotel, and its rooftop bar offers one of the best views in Chicago. Now back to the Windy City nickname. It likely came from newspaper writers in the late 1800s, especially from rival cities like Cincinnati and New York, who accused Chicago politicians and promoters of being full of hot air. During the run-up to the 1893 Columbian World Exposition, Chicago campaigned aggressively to host the fair, and riders mocked the city for its windy rhetoric. But it worked, and Chicago hosted the World's Fair. See that building with the shiny gold top? That's the Carbide and Carbon building. And it doesn't just look like gold, it is gold. It was completed in 1929, and the top is leafed in 24-karat gold. It was fully restored in 2004. And Chicago is actually famous for its bridges. They're called double-leaf trunnion bridges. Two of Chicago's modern marvels. On the left, 300 North Michigan with its sleek glass grid and clean vertical lines. And on the right, 1000 M Tower by Helmut Jahn with sharp angles and cutouts. We really loved how clearly the buildings are visible from the water and really enjoyed seeing the blend of the old and the new. This dramatic skyscraper rising along the Chicago River is 150 North Riverside, and it's a modern engineering wonder. Its most eye-catching feature, that bold V-shaped bottom balancing on a footprint that's just 39 feet wide. Like, what? Engineers got creative with this one to build here, squeezing between the river and active train tracks. The narrow base allows for more public river walk space and green parkland at street level. To keep this slender tower stable at 54 floors tall, engineers use a tuned mass damper system, which is water tanks high in the building that shift to counter wind sway. Wow. And since we find ourselves underneath yet another bridge, a double-leaf trunnion bridge is really just a fancy way to say that the bridges rotate on a large axle or pivot point, kind of like a giant hinge. I'm sure by this point you've noticed the surprising amount of parks and green spaces. If you combine both branches of the Chicago River, there are at least 10 named public parks or riverfront green spaces. Plus, there are extensive trails, kayak launches, open-air markets, and even floating boardwalks. These residential gems are called the River Cottages. They are townhouses designed by Henry Weiss in the late 1980s. These postmodern houses were inspired by Weiss's visit to the Danube River in Budapest. They were intended to jumpstart riverside living in downtown Chicago. They are definitely a true standout against the city's high-rise backdrop along the river. You saw this building a little earlier in the video, but let's bring it back for a closer look. This is Marina City, and it's one of my favorite buildings along the tour. It was designed by Bertrand Goldberg, and you'll see another one of his buildings a little later in the video. It was completed in the 1960s, and these twin corncob towers were a bold experiment in urban living. With its open-air parking spiraling around the base and apartments shaped like slices of pie, Marina City looked futuristic then, and let's be honest, it still does. Let's talk about the bridge houses a little more. What I really loved was the attention to details in these completely functional buildings and how different each one is from another one. They range from wooden clapboard to Beaux Arts and everything in between. Chicago hired its first tenders in the 1840s, and their job ranged from making sure traffic along the river moves smoothly to keeping peace on the bridge itself. And that included everything from brawls to suicides. Yikes. They were paid handsomely for their jobs and often lived in the bridge houses as well as worked there. The Bank of America building. Its most striking feature is the sawtooth design, which houses a covered riverwalk. 2. Riverside Plaza. This striking example of Art Deco style architecture was designed by the celebrated firm of Halliburton and Root, and it was built in 1929. Originally, this building was the Chicago Daily News headquarters, and they operated out of this building until the 1970s. After a major renovation, it was named 2 Riverside Plaza, and now it's office space. Thankfully, the renovation kept the original stone carvings and artistic flourishes, which tribute to the building's past life as the voice of a bustling metropolis. This mid-century modern marvel is named River City, and it was designed by legendary architect Bertrand Goldberg. Built in his signature style of brutalist meets organic, River City features multi-level apartments with skylit atriums and a flowing interior that mirrors the river outside. After our river cruise, we parked ourselves at Pisano's Pizza and Pasta. Founded in 1991 by Rudy Milani Jr., his father, Rudy Sr., was the original pioneer of deep dish pizza and helped open Pizzeria Uno in 1943. So you could say that making pizza is in their blood. We went for the deep dish because there is really nothing like that in Louisiana, but we did learn that most locals actually lean towards the thin crust. This was the perfect introduction to Chicago-style pizza for us.
Just got caught off guard mid-bite.
Yeah, but
It's really good. The cheese is really stretchy. It's like mozzarella sticks. It's the cheese that mozzarella sticks should be made with. You get it.
Yeah. Before getting into our next adventure in Chicago, I did want to add that Oprah named Pisano's Pizza and Pasta's thin crust pizza as her favorite, and it was a USA Today top 10 pick. As you can see, our next stop was a little different than most, and super fun. The Museum of Illusions was a complete blast, and it was a last-minute thing for us to do. From spinning rooms to mind-boggling mirrors, this place totally messes with your senses, but in the best way possible. And just a reminder, if you're loving this trip, don't forget to subscribe and check out our last video where we dined at the Gage and explored the historic Palmer House Hilton.
So whenever you place certain colors, which is right now it's green, so the only colors that are showing are colors that are green. So it's like a black for me. So now it's white, so you see all of the colors. So you can see how blue, yellow, red, white. So the only thing that's showing is everything that's not red.
Very
It
cool.
is red. But yeah.
So you really can't tell from the video, but when you step into this spinning room, it immediately knocks you off balance. How Phoenix made it through and back, I have no idea. The minute I stepped in, I thought I was falling. For dinner, we grabbed some delicious dumplings from Jito and found a cozy place by the window to people watch. This was a perfect little pause in a fun-filled day. And bonus, it didn't break our wallet. Thanks for joining us on this adventure through Chicago. Don't forget to subscribe to see where we end up next.